You don't think Republicans were prepared for unhinged liberal mobs? We've been dealing with this since Donald Trump won in
Scott, these aren't liberal mobs. These are not liberal mobs.
But believe me,
these are veterans.
I watched a little bit. I looked at the questions. Why is he shredding the Constitution? Putin this, Putin that. One guy had to be escorted out. He was so unhinged.
That was
Scott,
that guy.
These are not. This is an unrepresentative.
That was that guy,
unhinged.
the veteran.
Scott, if they,
it's a mob.
Scott,
it's a literal mob.
This is what you're saying about veterans.
That's Republican and CNN black sheep Scott Jennings proving once again why he's the only one at his failing network getting a pay raise in the midst of massive layoffs. Welcome to Nerk News. I'm Nerkish, and it looks like just days after CNN downplayed reports of violent attacks on Tesla dealerships, facilities, and car owners, Democrat mouthpiece Abby Phillip was instructed to balk at the idea that liberals are capable of committing violence in the name of their political beliefs. Here's Scott Jennings fact-checking Phillip over her latest absurd liberal-assigned narrative.
Tonight, Congresswoman Maxine Waters is urging Democrats to hit the streets and fight back against Trump, but her remarks have MAGA accusing her of fomenting violence. Listen.
I'm worried that Trump is on the edge of creating a civil war. He alluded to it more than once. He alluded to the fact that if he did not get reelected, that there could be a civil war. Now, this president is putting us in a position where hungry people are going to be on the street, where nonprofits who were waiting for their checks are not going to get them. When that happens, what does Trump expect? Oh, I believe he expects violence. I believe he expects confrontation. I believe he's working toward a civil war. We're not going to get goaded. We're not going to get tricked into that. We're going to continue to do our work.
So that has some on the MAGA wing of the country pretty upset. But I don't know, it seems to me pretty clear at the end there. She said, we're not going to go into that territory. So.
Why bring it up? I mean, she's hardly the first Democrat to bring it up. Hakeem Jeffries said earlier this year, we're going to fight in the streets. Anna Presley, Jasmine Crockett, other members of the Democratic conference have continuously alluded to violence because they're so angry about the Trump.
I think it's unfair to say that they're alluding to violence. When Jeffries was saying that, he was talking about going to the streets in protest,
he said,
which
fight
is
in the streets.
It's a political fight.
That's clearly not the context that he said.
But if Trump uses the word fight, everyone loses their mind.
You know, you've got to love how eager the media always is to downplay aggression from the left. I mean, let's not forget that these are the same people who've repeatedly suggested that nearly everything out of Trump's mouth is inflammatory rhetoric that will inevitably spur violence. Meanwhile, the same media will make excuses for the near-fatal attacks on his life, violent BLM protests, targeted violence against Tesla owners, and inflamed rhetoric from themselves and Democrats. I mean, for crying out loud, Maxine Waters was the one who famously called for harassing members of Trump's administration and his supporters during his first term. But of course, none of that apparently matters to Abby Phillip and her paid lackeys because you can practically see them salivating with glee over the fact that some liberal mobs showed up at a GOP town hall recently.
If Republicans weren't so worried, then why did you have the Republican Party go out and say, stop doing town halls, stop talking to real people?
It's a stupid idea.
Because they don't want to talk to people.
Voters,
they don't want to talk to voters.
Because
this is why you guys are polling so poorly.
We're not. Wait a minute. We're polling poorly. Can we just revisit the Democrat congressional approval rating?
Congress is polling poorly. Donald Trump is also polling poorly.
So angry
He's
people.
twice as much as Democrats in Congress.
40% of the American people, according to a CNN poll, says that 40% say that they care about him. And then you have a veteran out there saying, I'm a veteran and you don't give an F about me. That is in line with how people feel about Donald Trump. And
Totally
if you want to go off,
Totally
and
false.
if you want to say that it's liberal elitists,
if you want to tell yourself a story about these paid
if you want to
mobs,
say that it is liberal elitists going and they're being paid,
my guest.
then you guys are going to lose the midterms. And you know what? Wonderful.
Go ahead.
So you're telling me everybody that's showing up to these town halls to boo these Republicans on these crazy policies that they're supporting right now, these are all paid. We're going back to paid. We're playing the hits from 2020.
It's unrepresentative of that congressional district where this guy got like 56% of the vote.
So was unemployment
and of the state, which Donald Trump won. These are unrepresentative, unhinged mobs. I don't know what else to tell you. That's what they are.
And do you think Republicans who support the cuts and what this president is doing would even get a fair hearing? They would get shouted down immediately. The congressman was getting shouted down within seconds.
You know, it really is amusing to watch what information legacy media chooses to deem as trustworthy and authoritative. I mean, if Americans are complaining about the cost of living, Biden's mental health, or the border, pretend journalists everywhere argue that it's just because they're gullible rubes who don't understand economics or how to read any of the charts and graphs Democrats are sharing with them. But if Doge or Elon Musk are sharing information about waste, fraud, or abuse, it suddenly can't be believed because Trump's president. Meanwhile, if a mob shows up at a few GOP town halls claiming to be veterans or Republicans, then the media absolutely has to believe everything they say and infer that it's indicative of a blue wave in the midterms, regardless of whether or not any of that information has actually been confirmed. But let me know what you think. Which side is more prone to violent protests, Democrats or Republicans? Let me know in the comments, and if you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel. That stuff really does help us out. Until then, this has been Nerk News. Thanks for watching. Bye.